What's up, Lions fans? Welcome back to the Lions Main Podcast. We're ready to give you our preview of the Week 7 matchup against the Minnesota Vikings. Both teams look hot, but this week is where we separate the men from the boys, and we put the rest of the NFC North on watch. As always, we'll give our key matchups to look out for, and most importantly, we're finishing up with our player prop bets for the week. We have a lot to discuss on today's episode. Once again, you guys can find us on YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram at the Lions Main Podcast. Feel free to subscribe, follow, and comment on all platforms. Thanks for your support, and let's begin.
The Lions Main.
Beautiful. Welcome back, boys. I know it's been a long week. I've been waiting to see what the Lions will do, but how you guys been? How you guys doing?
We're doing good over here. We're Jim and I are together. We're helping paint his living room right now. So.
Oh, that sounds fun. Did he buy you dinner or something? And usually when you do, something like that for a friend, you help them move in, you paint. They'll buy you a 6-pack of beer.
No, I'm a bad guy. I'm a bad guy. Didn't do anything.
Oh, you're a piece of shit. Okay, yeah.
He's letting George sleep in his bed tonight.
True.
No, Peyton made us a wonderful dinner. It was fantastic.
What was it actually?
Broccoli cheddar soup for us gluten eaters. And what'd you have?
I had just some sort of cheddar soup with corn and potatoes and bacon and a bunch of other garbage. It was delicious.
Hearty meal. You said you thought you were about to say a bunch of garbage in there, but sounds delicious. Okay, yeah, nice.
Little cocktail too. A little cocktail to go with it.
Good. How about you, Drew? How you feeling?
What I had for dinner or how I'm feeling?
How you feeling? I don't give a fuck about your dinner. I don't know how these guys even said anything about it.
I'm doing all right. I'm super stoked for this matchup. I think it's like, I feel like, I got a couple good friends that are Vikings fans, and they are, I think, a little overconfident about the Vikings season so far, and hoping we come in and just stomp them.
Yeah, I mean, you actually bring up a good point. I remember back in college, I always would mention how much I hated the Packers, and you obviously share that hate, but you would always come out of left field to me and be like, no, fuck the Vikings. I hate those guys more than anybody. And I'm like, the Vikings? I think it's like Packers, Bears, then Vikings, but you're like, nah, I got to deal with these guys. I hate the Vikings. So
it's always the Vikings fans in my life were like insufferable.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
I get that. So do you guys want to start with the good news or you guys want to start with the bad news? And yes, there is more bad news.
Horrible news. Let's start with the horrible news.
Well, the horrible news is not only is Aiden Hutchinson out for the year, but defensive tackle Kyle Pico, I don't know if you guys are tracking, but he actually walked away with a torn pec in the first quarter of that game. And so our already very limited depth at the defensive line just got even more thin. So, but the good news, guys, Lions are giving defensive lineman Liam McNeil a 4-year deal worth $97 million, $55 million guaranteed. I think he deserves it. Yeah, that's big money. Speaking of big money, that averages out to $24.25 million per year. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
Love it. Top 10 defensive tackle. I think you made an interesting comparison, Kane, last night in our group chat, which I think is not a bad comparison. I think there's some caveats to it, but he's technically getting more in average annual value than Max Crosby. Now, and Max's first year was $12 million, so if you really look at the last 3 years, it's more like 27, 28, but
right.
That puts him around the fourth highest paid D tackle in the league. But as we all know, that cap's going to increase, and every D tackle that comes out from now on that's a top 10 caliber is going to reset the market. So I honestly think the way Brad Holmes is doing it makes sense. Not just this signing, but Goff and even Amon-Ra, paying top tier guys at the top of the current market or near it, while not resetting the market. I think it's a really smart strategy, and. I with that Pico news, by the way, Ken, I'm kind of coming around a little bit more. Even though he's not obviously he's not Aiden Hutchinson, but the more depth we lose, the more I'd say screw it, throw a first round. Just go get Max Crosby.
Yeah.
Go ahead. The Pico news first, everything that I've heard and what we've seen so far, I think is that he's done a lot of the dirty work. I mean, that's what Dan Campbell said in the press conference today. And so I do think it is obviously it's overshadowed by the news about Hutchinson,
Aiden,
but I do think it's somewhat
he tore his
significant.
pec, right? He tore his
pec. Yeah.
Let's not panic. I mean, didn't our center tear his pec? and he's back
No,
in
it's different. That was like a partial tear that I assume just healed itself, probably with some stitching or whatever. I'm not a medical professional. I'll leave that to that person. But this is a full tear. Like he's out for the season, confirmed.
Oh.
out for the season.
Yes.
Yeah. On the Aleem news, he's kind of one of the last big piece from that. Was it 2001 draft class with Amon-Ra and Penny, like that kind of the first one in this regime.
Yeah.
And he's 24 years old. So we were talking before we started recording about kind of what the prime of a D tackle's career is, and I think that this kind of locks him up for, at least the like a good chunk of his prime. Hoping that he continues to grow, obviously, but like Jim said, he's already performing, at the top of the league.
I think we're gonna have a more watchful eye. I was telling Drew earlier, like it's hard to actually see the value. Like when they say Pico's doing the dirty work and he's probably plugging up holes and forcing the running back in different directions or pushing the offensive line, the guard or center back. It's kind of hard to see that work. It's not a very glorious position. So now with Aiden out, I'm going to be, every single play watching to see what Aleem is doing out there and seeing the difference that he's making. So
I think we're being awfully humble by saying he's top 10. I'd say he's probably a top 5, but that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of my point. Like, I just don't like. It's not a very sexy position, It's like comparing a guard to an offensive guard to an offensive tackle. The tackle is sexy. You see the one-on-one blocks on the top tier defensive ends in the game, right? Like the nose tackle or D tackle position. I don't know how to value like this guy's so much better than the next guy. They both just look fat as hell, and they look like they're just two hogs just fighting in the middle. That's honestly what the fuck it looks like every time. So, I mean, I'm gonna keep an eye out for it, and I'll see how he's doing.
Well, what's interesting about him is this year's PFF rating, which I don't put a ton of stock in, but his PFF rating on the run game is not as high as it historically has been. It's still good, but it's not. That was normally his bread and butter. In the passing game, though, this year he's been second to Aiden on the team, and Aiden was literally leading the league. So, I mean, I expect that to kind of course correct over the course of the year, and him to have a really solid pass rush rating and a really, really, really good run rating. But the fact that he stepped up on the pass rush rating this year, meaning he's actually gotten, I think, already 2.5 sacks. He's been in the backfield a lot. Last year, whole season, he only had 5. Still great for a D tackle, other than Aaron Donald or Chris Jones. But I think it also helps that he had Hutch, but I think he'll still be good.
Yeah, I think one thing we didn't really touch on is we talked about it a little bit on the last pod, but there's a gap now in like the locker room per se. The culture around the Lions, especially on defense. Obviously, Hutch was the heart and soul, and so I think obviously we're not in the locker room. We don't know what goes on behind closed doors, but I'm hoping that this extension is like a vote of confidence from from the front office, that Aleem can kind of step into a bigger leadership role and in Aiden's absence.
I agree. I mean, I'll be interested to talk at the end of the season and see your guys' point from last episode. How does this affect the cap space? Can we pay all these guys? Blah 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 blah. I mean, we'll see. So,
we don't need to, like Jim said, beat that dead horse. But this was one of the guys that we needed to re-sign.
We'll get into it probably, week 20 once we're in the off season. But I'll be interesting. That'll be interesting to see. I'm praying we sign everybody. Like, what the hell? So we'll see. Some more good news though. We did sign defensive end Isaiah Thomas. I believe, was it the Bengals or Browns?
Point guard?
Yeah, I'm surprised he's still playing.
Yeah, the 5'8" point guard Isaiah Thomas,
or the 6'1" point guard from
the Hall of Famer,
Washington.
No, the one that went to Indiana. Anyways,
the GOAT. Go ahead, Jim.
Oh no, that's all I just said.
What the
Isaiah Thomas shit. That guy got signed to this team, which is cool, great, awesome. Saw it, said, "Oh, cool." kept going.
Yeah, he's second on the depth chart right now. So
I think that's kind of what we saw coming. I mean, that's like the obvious thing to do: sign somebody that's as far as money wise, low value. See what he does. Get a temperature check this weekend. This is going to be a tough game. It's probably our toughest game, I would say. Some people
so
might
far,
argue
yeah,
different things. I would, yeah, so far, and yeah, we're going to get a temperature check with the whole D line. So we
right.
talked about even preseason. Lee McNeil, this could be a prove it year. I mean, he's getting paid now, so he better be proving it.
Yeah, I mean,
Actually, I don't know if you guys saw it. I think that's a great point, but George, I think that money is their belief that he will prove it too. But now this just could be completely the agent blowing smoke. There was a report today, and I don't even know if I'd want it per se, unless he was agreeing to just play this last 8-game stretch. But Hassan Reddick to the Lions has been talked about. I don't think I want it, but it's been talked about.
I saw that. Apparently, so I saw that the going rate was around a 3rd-round pick for Hassan Reddick. Apparently, and I haven't fact checked this, but I heard that the Eagles put a clause in the trade to the Jets that if the Jets trade him to another NFC team, then their pick gets upgraded to a second that the Jets gave the Eagles. So they're incentivized to not trade him to the NFC.
Yep.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Now, I do think, though, if they're stuck between, by the trade deadline, if there's no real trade materializing, and they're stuck between basically looking like idiots and taking a 1-round loss versus having a guy who's never going to show up for you and complete mothballing, that's why I saw that same thing, and I think it's going to make them wait to trade and see if someone gets desperate. But if no one gets desperate, I think he could be had for a 3rd. But yeah, I mean, if a team other than the Lions needs a D end, I could see someone paying a 2nd for him.
Yeah. I also think to I can't remember if it was George or you, Jim, but I think that another week, on top of just seeing how our defense performs, another week, maybe those teams that were sellers this last week, they take another loss, like they're more incentivized to move on from a guy and trade for some draft capital. I think just if you read the tea leaves, like Brad's going to do all the homework in the world and make sure, like, I think he's going to be really patient through this process. And I know we all want it. Like right now, we want the guy. And Dan Campbell at his press conference today, like he strongly alluded to that there's like another significant move to be made. So
yeah,
I just think it's going to take a little bit.
Yeah,
he's going to be doing his algebra too.
I do wonder how patient you mean, because the most important day of the year, guys, November 5th. If you haven't registered already, make sure you guys are ready for the trade deadline. Most important day of the year, the NFL trade deadline, okay?
That's actually an insane day to have the deadline.
I know. So it's like, was it 19 days away? I hope he's patient, not too patient, because
who
like,
who are you hoping for, guys?
You know who my vote's for. You listen to last podcast.
I'll be rooting for a true American patriot like Max Crosby.
So, well, some other guys that we did sign as well, not to just, jump shit on that topic, but we did sign some guys to the practice squad. So I think they're going to try out some more, defensive position players as well. So we got linebacker Cam Gill and as well as linebacker Al-Qadim Muhammad. So we'll see how those guys do.
We signed the Prophet and a fish. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's a good one, Jim. You guys fucking threw me off. Let me think. All right, now what's a good segue into me talking about the Lions offense? What the fuck? All right.
So, or how about this? Right. Inshallah, we beat the Vikings. What do you guys think?
So, yeah, inshallah, I hope we beat the Vikings. Let's get into our first segment. So what we're going to go ahead and do is talk about what we expect from the Lions offense against the Vikings defense. And before we begin, I got a few thoughts myself before you hop in, Drew. I know you might want to say a little piece here. Big week. Not to get overshadowed of like, hey, big week, we get to try and see like how the D-line does. Like, no, this game counts as double in a the best, most competitive division. So a win against the Vikings, that's a two game swing. So I don't want that to be overshadowed. But this looks like the very unexpected matchup for MVP favorites Jared Goff versus Sam Darnold. Yeah, rewind. Was Sam Darnold ever considered good? No, this is probably like his best year of his career. So during this matchup, we're kind of looking at a very obviously the number one. I think we had us rated at the number 3 offense in the league, but after that Dallas Cowboys performance, you could damn near well say the number 1, especially running offense.
Number 1 scoring offense too.
Number 1 scoring offense. Right. So the number 1 offense against a team who has a defense who has very few stars. So they got Case at linebacker, who actually has sat out 2 games this year, and what from my opinion has kind of underperformed his value. They're actually being led right now by Blake Cashman, who is their middle linebacker. Think like an Anzalone in a different world put into the Vikings. He's leading their team with 40 tackles on the season. Something to look out for is the matchup between him and the running game. Their D-line, their linebackers have put up some stout numbers in the sack category, as well as the pressures and tackles for losses. So looking at how they actually, the first possession of the game, we're literally going to march down and try to punch them in the mouth. So seeing how the Minnesota Vikings defense responds to that is going to be very telling on how this game goes. My prediction for this first drive of the game is we're going to do it how we always have. Montgomery's going to run up Taylor Decker's ass and then switch sides and run up Penny Sewell's ass, and we're going to punch it in the mouth to score and start the game, set the tone. One thing to note on Blake Cashman being their number 1 overall tackler and leader on the defense this year. He didn't practice today due to the toe injury. So on the other side of the ball, they got some injuries that I know you want to talk about, Jim, but hopefully they suffered the same effect that we did and hurt from some injuries going into the game.
Nowhere near did they suffer the same effect, but I get the sentiment.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, Justin Jefferson would need to get shot in the head. To be equivalent.
Yeah. I was telling Drew, you guys keep bringing up these sad topics, bro. I was telling Drew before this that I was just watching, I literally looked at our depth chart. What'd you say, George?
It's just the one topic that just keeps reminding you and making you sad.
Yeah, dude.
It's only
I legitimately, I was looking at the depth chart, just staring at it. And I was watching like these doctors talk about Aiden Hutchinson's injury, and I had legitimate tears in my eyes going, bro.
You've seen
if you saw the state of our D-line and linebackers?
The videos of all those kids in the hospital, they're now wishing Aiden like a get well soon. That's playing in the background.
Saw that.
Yeah. All these kids with like leukemia, and they're like,
they're cheering on Aiden.
Strong.
Yeah, bro. And he got the song "In the Eyes of an Angel"
for just $1 a day.
Right.
It hasn't been that much carnage in a while.
Yeah.
Anyways, Drew, I know you wanted to talk about the Lions offense a bit.
Yeah, I think our bread and butter has been the run game, and the Vikings have been like extremely stout against run game so far this year. I think they've only had one game where they allowed over 100 yards rushing. Only 4 teams have done that in the NFL so far. Oddly enough, the Lions are one of those 4. But yeah, I'm really excited to see the matchup between coordinators. Brian Flores is a masterclass defensive mind. Obviously, a former head coach, now with the Vikings. And I went back to watch some of the Vikings games. I feel like I haven't seen any of it, seen them play. I know they had the London game, and Sleepy Drew, he sleeps in on Sundays. But they do something different. Like, I haven't seen very many teams do this, where they will show like 7, 8, even 9 guys blitzing, and then drop back in coverage a lot. I know that's like common, but they seem to do it like almost every play. And so I think, obviously the matchup between the coordinators, but particularly how Jared Goff and Ragnow go through like the pre-snap reads. And I think that's what I'm most excited for, because I think it's gonna need, Flores even says it. He's like, I want to like load the line of scrimmage to, even if it's just causes like the quarterback or the wide receivers or the offensive line to like think another half second, that can lead to like a mistake or a turnover. And Vikings, I think, are like top 3 or 4 so far in the NFL in forcing turnovers or takeaways. And so, I think we're gonna need another stellar Goff game. And particularly, in his reads.
Yeah.
Pre-snap.
You brought up a really good point. I didn't even think about when we talk about our matchups that we're looking forward to. I didn't even think about the coordinators, but one of the biggest things that scares me going into this game is that Brian Flores leads the league in blitz percentage, sitting just below 60%. And we know how well or unwell Jared Goff is at handling like blitz pressure up the middle. So that's a great point that you brought it up, because that's probably like the number one thing that I'm looking forward to, and how our, rag now and then pick up those blitz coverages.
Yeah, and I think he disguises the blitz extremely well. I think that's, I guess, the point about having so many people crowding the line. But shout out Harrison Smith, man, 35, still doing it at safety. That's he's obviously a huge part of that. Great blitzing safety. So obviously got no real love for any Vikings, but you do got to appreciate an old man doing it.
Hey Kane, you know how you counter that insane blitz, especially up the middle? You put those fullbacks in there, you put those tight ends in there, you pull the guards, you throw an extra tackle out there. I think the Lions are going to be playing a bunch of big boy ball out there. I don't think it's going to be a lot of spread. I think it's going to be big boy offense until they can, until the Vikings are like, shit, we need to actually, not blitz everybody. And
not sacrifice our linebackers and Laporta and Brock Wright and Penny Sewell pulling.
Right.
Hey, yeah, over under 0.5 targets to offensive linemen this Sunday.
I hammer the over every week because it's going to be it's probably plus 500, and it's going to hit once every 5 weeks.
Under. We showed too many of our cards. We gotta keep them. We gotta keep them for later.
I think Ben Johnson's bag goes so deep.
Do you think he? I think this answer's pretty obvious. You think he did that as a fuck you rather than just showing his bag? He did it as a fuck you, right? Yeah,
for sure.
Throwing up that last play on the fly, like that one play to skip.
Yeah, with the clipboard, and he was like,
that wasn't even a play. Yeah, that one was.
Yeah.
Well, you're talking about they definitely practiced that penne.
Well, the penne one was a practice, but the one where Skipper was just out on that edge, just turn around.
The back shoulder throw? Can you imagine if he caught it behind the back?
Oh, Decker, yeah. He almost caught it, too.
Yeah.
All right, is this a good time to start talking about the other side of the football?
It's a perfect time, Jim. Take it away.
All right, well, I'll let George dig in here, too, but I think at a high level, while I think both the Vikings and Lions have good offense and defense, I think this is the side of the ball where there's probably not as much of a premier matchup. Aaron Glenn, I think, has been much maligned, but I think a lot of Detroit fans like him now. I'm not even going to lie. I think it's Kevin O'Connell just calling the plays for the Vikings. I don't think they have a true offensive coordinator. Could be wrong there. And Kevin O'Connell's a great offensive coordinator. Aaron Glenn's a solid defensive coordinator, but I would say these are the two weaker of the units. Not that they're actually weak, especially now with Hutch out and with Aaron Jones, not as big of a deal, but Aaron Jones out. For the Vikings. That being said, the Vikings offensive line, if ours is the best in the league, which I think it is, the Vikings is not far off. They have one of the best tackle combos in the league with Darrishon and O'Neal, and they have a good interior line too. What I'm looking forward to this week, I think the Vikings offense is going to be very one-dimensional. Aaron Jones is good, but he's out. Well, not officially out yet, but he's more than likely out. Their backup running backs are Ty Chandler, who's and Cam Akers, who literally just on the Texans for all the past 5 weeks. So
I feel like Cam Akers is always getting traded for a 7th round pick. I feel like this is like now the 3rd time he's been. Is that just me or?
No,
he
right.
might be a part of a money laundering scheme.
He could be. He could be like the NFL. Like he's getting paid money under the table just to like be like a trade asset. But I think it's going to come down to, at the end of the day, stopping the Vikings pass game, and it's. Look, if you can make them one-dimensional, I think Sam Darnold's improved a lot. I think he's due for a regression at some point. And I think the Lions secondary is aggressive enough to make him pay a few times. If we can, I think we, like we did last game, put a lot of attention on the main receiver. The Vikings have a better second receiver in Jordan Addison, but I think you let Jordan Addison eat, you take away the run game, you don't let Justin Jefferson just straight up beat you. And I think that's how you win the game, is let their second receiver have a good day. Let
Yep.
Justin Jefferson, if you can hold him to under 100 yards, that's a huge win, and their run game probably won't move the ball too aggressively. I think Sam Darnold's good. I think he's going to struggle, especially if the Lions can actually play really, really solid man coverage.
Yeah. Sam Darnold's got to come back to reality at some point, and if there's a game to do it, it's this game. So
Yep.
what it sounds like, from your game plan, it sounds like we're sticking to what we do best. Lots of man coverage, Kirby over top.
Stop the run, Kirby over the top. It's worked all year. Truly the only game where our defense looked like it was not arguably the best unit on either team in the game was against the Seahawks. In the Cowboys game, obviously the Lions' offense was phenomenal. The Lions' offense and defense were incredible in that Cowboys game. Both sides of the ball showed up in full force. The only time one of the units didn't look great this year was the Lions' defense against the Seahawks. So I think this is another game, even without Hutch, where they look really good.
Can I ask, what do you guys think is going to be different? I guess how are we going to get pressures now? Because obviously we just leaned on Hutch so much. How do you kind of see the scheme kind of changing to kind of manufacture those pressures?
Right.
I think something out of our linebackers. I'm hoping for a big game out of them. With Aiden being gone, hopefully, because we usually stop the run game pretty well, but I'm worried that without him containing that edge, that now running backs are going to be interested in bouncing out, and that's what makes me nervous. So I think our linebackers are going to have to step up huge with that. We'll see. It's kind of a temperature test with this defense. We kind of don't know where they're at without Aiden, how the D-line's going to be. Is Aleem going to step up and be that man? So I'm a bit nervous about the run game myself, even with Aaron Jones out. Akers is a good enough running back that if, behind a good enough line and with, we don't know how good this defensive line is without Aiden. It makes me a little nervous, but, you just got to hope for those players to step up and get those pressures then.
I'm expecting some Brian Branch in the backfield too, in addition to the linebackers. I think the linebackers are going to be big, and I think Brian Branch is going to have some. I think they're going to want him down the box. He's one of the best blitzing safeties in the league. So I think in addition to Jack Campbell and Zaloni and Malcolm, you're going to have a good and shout out to a guy that we have a few connections with, Trevor Nowoski. I think he's going to get a little play too this week, especially after that sack last week.
Yeah, no, those are all really good points. This is one thing that kind of gets looked over. I know Aiden led the league in sacks. He also led the league in tackles for loss. So big gap to fill. And I would love to see the new best player in the defense, Brian Branch, come down into the box and play that. Everyone has a different name for it, no matter where you live. It's like that robber or the jack safety or the monster back.
Kind of like
it's the
Harrison Smith position, yeah?
I think Harrison Smith primarily plays the free. I've always seen him back there in the free, but truly, Brian Branch. If you saw Brian Branch lined up at D end, you might go, "Let's run it, let's get it." You know what I mean? So truly filling that role. I would love to see that. George, do you think that we see a pretty big game out of Malcolm Rodriguez?
I mean, I'm hoping for a big game out of the linebackers in general. Him specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they can eat because we don't know about their running game truly either. I'm worried because of all the unknowns that are out there right now. But I think if the linebackers step up,
all right.
It doesn't matter if Aiden's gone. We're gonna be smashing them.
Yeah, it's gonna take a collective unit to step up and fill that. So that's a good point. So I think we went through and talked about the position groups pretty good and the matchups that we're looking forward to. But this is now time for our last segment, the most important part, the player prop bets. And so just a little recap from last week, week 6. So of course, guys, I'm 5-0. I cannot. Am I just that good, or are you guys just that bad? 5-0. We got Dak under 277.5. I trusted our defense, and they came through. George.
I think more importantly than you being 5-0.
Yeah, we'll get to you. We'll get to you.
Get on the board, baby. Come on.
Hey. We're going in the order from winningest to least losingest. All right. So George went back in. George, you're back in the win column, man. After you ghosted us for a week. Jahmyr Gibbs over 57.5.
Yeah.
You remember ghosting us? You went to the what the concert did you go to? What's the girl's name again? She's scary looking. You think she's hot? She's scary looking.
Ice
What's her name?
Spice?
Sabrina Carpenter, scary
Yeah,
looking.
she looks like a doll.
Watch your mouth, bro.
She looks like a doll, bro.
Have you heard about
Like
the Sabrina
Annabelle.
Carpenter? Have you heard about the Sabrina Carpenter curse?
Please.
Apparently, she's been touring all around. Well, wait, George. I think you were the one that.
She's been touring all around. She's been wearing their jerseys, and I guess I didn't even look into it too much, but I think they're losing everybody that she's worn their jerseys. But shout out to her. She did not wear a Lions jersey when she was in Detroit, so she didn't curse us.
Yeah, that's good. She looks like Annabelle, so I could see where that curse comes from. And then, Jim, you're on a losing streak. That's two. It's 2 in a row.
Yeah, well, the DK one was foolish in retrospect. The Amon-Ra one, a little bit shocked by. I think everybody else in that game probably hit their over but him. And it is what it is. It's not proud of losing streak, but I'll ride with Amon-Ra. I will say the DK bet was horrible in retrospect.
People have been saying that you can see Amon-Ra's body language is pretty negative on the field when he's not getting the ball. Have you seen anything like that?
Really? I saw that. I don't read into that. He's just doing the give me the ball. Like once he gets it, he's like, gets a good play and he's excited about it. But like that's don't people read into that. Like,
hey, I'm just asking you. You guys are the professionals. I'm just asking you guys. All right.
He seemed pretty happy after the game. I'll say that. He seemed pretty happy after the game. So
those receivers and DBs, they like getting in those little fights. And now we got 2 receivers fighting over each other apparently, but like those divas like fighting.
They do. But George Pickens can go to hell.
Right. Anyways, most importantly, Drew, man, welcome. You won a game. You won a prop bet, Drew. Now we just need Jim to come through. We can actually win a little bit of money. I think we're about $60 in the hole. So, no, we won 1 week.
Yeah,
we won 1 week. About $20 in the hole. So let's go ahead and get it started. Jim, you're up first, man. Did you know what player prop you want to take?
I do. I talked about this a little bit earlier. I think the Lions. I think Justin Jefferson's just going to eat anytime he plays. The key is to not let him have a career day against the Lions like he has had the past few times. We can limit him to a typical Justin Jefferson day, around 100 yards, a touchdown, and 8 catches. I'd consider that a win personally. So what I'm going to say is I think Jordan Addison is over 51.5. They don't have TJ Hawkinson. The run game is suspect. And their third options are not like Jalen Nailor is a good player at Michigan State, go green, but he's not someone I think of as like a true wide receiver 3. He's honestly Tim Patrick level at best, but probably worse at this point. Yeah. So Jordan Addison 51.5 yards over.
I see your logic behind that. That's not a bad one, but you're fraternizing with the enemy. Anyways,
look, I think that's a bad thing for them. If Jordan Addison if Jordan Addison, unless Justin Jefferson also goes crazy, but if Jordan Addison has a lot of yards in a game, to me that usually means something bad for the Vikings or something really good. So I think if he has over 51.5, that means they can do shit on the ground.
Yeah. All right, George. How about you, man?
David Montgomery over 48.5.
That is a low number.
Easy.
That feels like a give me.
All right.
Easy.
So I was staring at this bet because it was like, this seems so low. And so one stat that I read this week is that the Vikings run defense is contacting the runner in the backfield on over 50% of opposing teams' run plays, meaning that they're. I'm just saying. No, I know. Monty, since entering the league, and I will say it's a great pick because I think since entering the league, Monty's been one of the best break tackle runners. So
yeah,
I think it's a great pick, George. So I didn't mean to.
Right. No. That's like there's a question mark on this, but no. Confidence.
We bring the boom.
Confidence is key, and we know Drew doesn't lack that. So Drew, what do you got?
Yeah, I think it's gonna be an interesting one. It's a tough game to predict. I would be tempted to take honestly a lot of unders, but one I'm not taking is the JMO over. JMO over 46.5 receiving yards. I think there's gonna be I think there's going to be blown coverage on a blitz or something that's going to be schemed up, and he's going to have one, if not two, big plays.
So you're taking the over, right?
Taking the over.
All right, yeah. You took mine. So I gotta think. I can do an audible real quick.
Phrasing.
Oh, you got.
I think
you're picked last. You always gonna have a backup.
Well, I do have some backups. All right, I just wanted to delay a little bit. I want to talk about. I think that's a really good one. You know, I think they keep lowballing J-Mo. He leads the team in receiving yards, and they keep putting him somewhere like he hasn't had one game above 50. Disrespect? Yeah. J-Mo disrespect or what?
I think they because he has such a I think he might be leading the league or top 5 in yards per reception. I don't know if you guys. It's close. I don't know if he's exactly leading, but I think
hasn't he had like 2 games where he had 2 or 3 catches and over 90 yards?
Yeah, it's like that.
Which,
old.
By the way, that's like if it only happened twice, I'd say it's unsustainable. He's had like 1 dud game and 4 great games.
Right. No, and I think that's exactly I think you see the big or the larger yards per reception number, and you think, oh, this guy's boom or bust. And I just don't think he is.
He brings the boom, is what he does. Brings the boom,
dude. He lowered that shoulder against Dallas.
Did you get scared? Sir. Thought he was gonna hurt himself?
Yeah, I wish he would start dropping that shoulder.
All right, I finally got it. I stalled effectively, and you guys helped me out. I appreciate it. Sam Darnold over 0.5 interceptions.
Oh, had me there for a second.
I had to look for that one. I was panicking. I was panicking. Kirby's gonna eat. Branch is gonna eat. Fuck it. Malcolm Rodriguez might get him one. Like, bro, we're gonna eat.
Crazy. You think Kirby's gonna get one because that means the Vikings are in the red zone.
Kirby gonna hit one of these. Suck the ball in.
Yeah.
It's actually a Payne special when she hits it. She's imitating Patrick Starr eating sucking in the food.
So I think that'll actually be a pretty good parlay. And Jim, you're hilarious, but that'll be a pretty good parlay. Sam Darnold over 0.5 interceptions. Monty over rushing yards 48.5. Addison over receiving yards 51.5, and J-Mo over 46.5. We did talk about some good defenses, and you guys are hitting the overs, but I think this is a good one. Last thing before, Drew, I know you wanted to go ahead and wrap it up, but before we get into that, the line is sitting at -1.5 for the Vikings right now on DraftKings.
Really? It moved then. I think it started at 2.5.
Yeah, it was at 2. It was at 2.
I saw it at 2.5 earlier this week.
That 3 at 1
right now, it's sitting, 1.5 Minnesota Vikings.
Wow. Okay, and that means a lot of people are betting on the lines because I swear it opened at -2.5 Vikings.
Yeah.
Make these
either that or 3. And then the over/under is sitting at 51. So what do you guys think the score of the game is going to be? Jim, how about you go again? Score of the game.
Me? I think it's going to be lower scoring than last week. I don't think you can replicate 47-9, or quite frankly 42-29 against this team. I do think it's going to be a little higher scoring than some people anticipate. I picture the Lions getting an opportunity. Here's what I'm going to say. The Lions put up. Brian Flores was still the coach last year. Granted, the defense wasn't as good. The Lions put up 30. I don't remember. I think it might have been 30 both times. I like the Lions to get 27. I like the Vikings to score 24. Lions win 27-24.
Okay, I like that one. George?
35-24 Lions.
Drewski?
Is it would it be a sin?
What the fuck?
Would it be a sin to think that, to predict an L?
Not a sin. Someone has to do it. Someone has to do it because we can't be all.
Yeah,
we are away.
I think I am nervous for this game, and particularly for the points that we brought up. I think that, especially Goff, under pressure. I'm just nervous, and they're coming off a bye. We're coming off like an emotional week, a lot of like stuff going on.
Please.
I think it's gonna be a close game. I'm not gonna pick a score, but I think the Vikings get this.
You think they cover?
That's 1.5 points. That's gonna be.
Wait. We have a guest picker. Peyton, what's the score of the game going to be? Come here. What's the score of the game going to be? Lions, Vikings.
37-9.
Who's going to win? Okay, all right, get out of here. 37-9.
Let's go. We got a believer in the house.
Would that be a scoregami?
That could be. That could be.
You know, they got a good defense, and so do we. But fuck that. I'm thinking Lions 28, and I don't even know how to get this number, but I think the Vikings get 25.
All right. I like that. 25
that?
would be an interesting score.
Yeah. Do the math. I don't know how.
It'll be doable somehow. Somehow it'll happen. They might be down by like 11 points. They go for 8.
Right. So, hey, man.
All right.
Obviously I'm rooting for the Lions here. I'm not like.
No, we get it. You're a Vikings fan.
Well, I mean,
Minnesota.
I understand what you're saying because the NFC North as a whole is extremely competitive.
I also just think like what are we just gonna sit here every week and be like, Lions are winning this one? Like no, like I actually like looking at the schedule as a whole, like I think that this is a game.
There are a few games, yeah.
And this was So,
this is one of them. You're good, bro. You don't. No one's attacking you.
I know. I feel guilty myself. I guess I just feel like I just made a deal with the devil.
You should feel sick to your stomach, Drew.
You don't think the Lions?
What about So let's just veer off the Lions and Vikings real quick. What do you guys thinking about the Bears and Commanders game? Just real quick. What are you guys thinking?
Score or just general feeling?
Like, what are your thoughts? Like, I'm thinking this is Rookie of the Year matchup. I'm thinking like it's gonna be awesome to see them go against each other. What are your initial thoughts?
Points.
Man?
I think it's gonna be a lot of points.
Bears win. Jaden Daniels is still, I think, going to look better slightly, but I think Bears win because the Bears have a good defense. The Commanders have a poo-poo PP defense.
Right. No, I thought it was okay, but no, okay, I like that take. All right, then let's move on. Let's not beat that into the ground. How about the Packers versus Texans?
Well, if anybody no one
else wants the Packers.
Packers gonna win. NFC North is good, baby.
I can't pick the Vikings to win and the Packers to win in the same week.
Gotta ride with Dr. Do, baby.
Dude, once our division starts playing each other, that shit's gonna even out slightly. But I get what you're saying.
No, and to your point, I mean, as we probably haven't talked about this enough so far this season. Just the quality of play in the NFC North. It's the best division in football. There's a crazy stat out there about the point differential of all the teams in the North. Where it's the top 4 teams in point differential. And I think it's like Vikings have like 63. We're right behind them with 60, and then the other 2 are in the 40s. And I do, obviously I just kind of picked the Lions to lose, but I think if you look at the schedule for all the teams, the NFC North, the interdivision games are like stacked up towards the end of the season, and it's just going to be like a heavyweight boxing match. I feel like, once we get to week 12 and on, for all 4 teams that are, could realistically be fighting for playoff spots. And seeding. And so I do think like, man, it's going to be, it would be so awesome if the Lions pull this one out and just steal one early in the division.
Perfect weekend. Lions win, Packers lose, Bears lose.
That'll be perfect. Thank you guys. Thank you listeners for listening to this preview of the Week 7 matchup against the Vikings. And as always, let's go Lions.